Akame got killed, episode 8, Kill the Three Beasts, part 2. Definitely a fun episode. The action was really cool in this one. We actually got Tatsumi getting an Imperial Arms. Sadly, of course, it came because we got another big battle and we lost another main character. And it's always said, it wasn't nearly as sad as losing Shield, just the way that they played it up. Um, in this one, and I finally remember his name, hopefully I'm even pronouncing it right, but Bulat, I guess, he had, it was more of a neutral death. It wasn't like it was really sad or anything, because with Shield, it was like, it was just kind of sad, and plus it was the first death, so it was surprising, but at the same time, it was also sad, because she saved mine, and it was like, mine was there to react, because there was no, oh, you did it, and then they were shocked, and it's like, oh, we have to fight someone else. It was like there was no we kind of won or anything like that. They flat out lost. Like mine was injured and she was almost killed and captured and killed, and Shield was done for sure, and she was the reason that mine lived. So it wasn't the same feeling in this either. Like it still sucked. It was still sad that we lost a character, of course, but it wasn't nearly the same. Like we had these two characters who kind of give us a second option to the whole one person dies when two Imperial Arms users fight. And it's that they both technically died. And really, if it weren't for the fact that the old guy used poison in his blood, then he would have been the only person that lost. And I kind of hate that ultimately, because it's like, man, that really sucks, because he totally lost. Like he was really the loser, but he had his actual trump card, and he had the poison in his blood, and it was a cool move, admittedly. And I thought he flat out killed Ulat, like when he did the attack, and it was like, man, if I hadn't, if I hesitated a bit, he would have annihilated me. And I'm like, oh sweet, he's gonna be injured, but he's totally gonna live. I was like, this is cool, like he survived, and we didn't lose somebody else. And then it's like, no, we actually did, because the poison was in his blood. So it sucked that happened, but it was definitely a fun episode. Love the action. The three beasts all officially killed off. I mean, the kid, also his trump card was pretty interesting, because I'd seen a picture of that, and I was like, do they do a time skip in this anime? And it's just the power where it just makes him really big. And it's funny that he has the exact same voice, because of course, he's really big. You think his voice would be a little deeper, but it's the exact same voice. He's just like super buff and stuff now, and that did not matter. Like that fight was still really short. Like the fight before he, like oddly enough, before he got buffed up, the fight lasted longer between him and Tatsumi. And then after that, when Tatsumi was able to use the Imperial Arms, which was a really cool scene. Like we learned a little bit about the creature and how it's technically still alive, and it adapted, the creature that it comes from, that species, adapts to any location on Earth, whether it's the scorching heat of the desert or the freezing tundras of, wherever, because they aren't the same continents and things like that. So it was really cool to see that happen, and we got to see the uniform change just a little bit. It was pretty much the same. It was just, of course, it looked skinnier because it was on Tatsumi, who isn't like, kind of built like Ubat was. But that was really cool. They have like one punch, and Tatsumi just takes this kid out. It was almost like he had like a phantom punch, because of course the punch is met, and then it seemed like he basically just did like a little extra push in the middle, like after they'd been standing for like 5 seconds, he just did like an extra push, and it was enough force to take the kid out. And I was surprised by the way they did it, because him hitting the wall and it was just like boom, and just blood was just like and just splat out. I was like, that's way different than what I was expecting. So he got taken out in a pretty crazy way, where it just like destroyed him. Even though when he fell, it didn't look like he was bloodied at all, which I thought was kind of funny. But it just really messed him up, and I'm assuming he's officially dead, because I mean, all that blood, he definitely should be. But at the same time, he could have just seemed dead and have just been taken out. But it was called Kill the Three Beasts, and I'm pretty sure they did that 100% in this episode. And it was fun. It was a nice episode. It really was. I think this is really the first episode that focused, that had so few characters within it. Because normally, even if the main focus is one thing, we at least have like 6 or 7 different characters. Typically, most of them being from Night Raid. And this was seriously just Tatsumi, Ublat, and the other two beasts. And I guess technically Esdeath in the flashback. And then we had the I guess we had like 9 characters because we had like 4 other the people at the end. The only one that really matters is of course Akame's sister. So technically we still had a bunch of characters, but it was ultimately like the whole episode was really like 4 people on a boat, and then the very end scene, and like not counting the flashback, the very end scene, we got a couple of extra people. So it was just pretty interesting. Like it was solely focused on this battle, and we did get the answer because that was a big question I had. Like what made the old guy change his mind and really work under the minister, technically speaking, since as death works under him, so he is. And we got that in the flashback, and really it was a simple answer. It wasn't anything special. It was really just like all she did was kind of go in and yell at him when he was like, "Oh, I'm sent to death" and stuff. And it's like, well, if you fall under me, that won't happen. And that was pretty much it. It wasn't much of an amazing answer, to be totally honest, unless there was something I missed in there because I was doing whatever and I may have missed it. But from what I remember, there wasn't really much to it. It was like, well, she went in and basically just recruited him, and that was honestly it. And it was like, well, you work under me, and I assure you that you'll be freed of all your crimes and things like that. Or there will be no punishment for you. Just come work under me. You're really tough. I can see that, so I want you to be a part of my team. And that was really it. As far as I saw, I was like, well, that's not that really. Meh. It was a kind of so-so answer for me, but it didn't matter. Like, it was still really cool. I mean, plus he died anyway. It's like, obviously, based on these last couple episodes, no one is important in the show really, except for Tatsumi and Akame. Everybody else is just like, yeah, we're in it, but we'll probably die next time, so who cares? But it was fun. It was definitely a fun action episode. Not really any comedy whatsoever in this one. This was a pretty straightforward, just fight for half an hour type of episode, and I loved it for that. It was definitely great action. It, like I said, sucked to lose another character in Night Raid, but it was a great transition of power from one member to the next, like to the newest member. And so we have Tatsumi, who now has an Imperial Arms, which he got from his bro, so it is going to have an emotional attachment to it as well, which I think is very cool, because it wasn't just like, oh, he died and that was it. He passed on this Imperial Arms, and that, it will kind of live on. It's not just like, oh, Tatsumi has an Imperial Arms now, which is, in one regard by itself is really awesome. But as well, it's passed on from someone that he cared about, who unfortunately died, right there. And I did love the scene when he cried. And he was like, I know. He like apologized, like, I'm sorry you had to punch me and knock some sense into me, but is it okay if I cry for you right now? I actually really love that scene. I was like, that was a pretty good scene, the way they played that, where he was like, sorry, I just had to do that. I was kind of freaked out and stuff, and I wasn't 100% in the zone, and you had to knock some sense into me. And I know you don't really like when I tear up and get emotional over losing someone, because we're supposed to, as Night Raid, they know that can happen, but he still wanted to cry over someone he cared about. And I was like, that was just a really good scene to me, so I loved that one. And overall, it was definitely an enjoyable episode. It didn't have much to continue the story arc outside of us, of course, losing a main character and introducing a main character. So I guess it did have, obviously it had 2 really big moments, but it wasn't like, oh, here's, the plot continuing and this is how much closer they are or anything. It was like, well, it's called Kill the 3 Beasts, and that's exactly what happened. We just unfortunately lost a character. I do like the fact that it was kind of even. It did change it up a little bit. It gave us, like I said, a second option to the Imperial Arm stuff, where in some cases both people can die. If they're just both fairly matched, that can also happen. And if it wasn't for that trump card, Bulat would have been the one to come out on top. But sadly, they kind of messed with us, like, all right, he survived, he's going to be wounded, but he made it. And it's like, nope, he was poisoned, and then it's like, we're crushed. But I did love the episode. I'm really excited for the next one. We have Akame's sister coming to the capital, so I don't know if that's going to be a focus in the next one, because, who knows how far away she is. But we have that happening now, so that should be cool. We also have Akame and the other guy who were doing, I can't even remember what their mission was, honestly. It was like they were, Tatsumi and Uwa were on the boat, and then Akame and the other dude were somewhere in like a forest, and that's all I remember. Like, honestly, the only thing I can think of is they were sitting in there. Akame was hungry, and it's like, here, you want this? And she basically bit his whole hand off, and it was a funny scene. I don't remember at all what their mission is. So I don't know if we're gonna get an episode, if the next one's gonna be about the two of them and what their side of the mission was, and then it kind of, that episode ends, and then the two episodes kind of converge timeline wise, and we just keep going, or if it's just gonna skip over that and be like, yeah, this is what happened, and it was nothing, and they just continue on with whatever new mission they get. But either way, definitely love this one. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and it's kind of soon. I didn't expect us to be losing another character, but what do you guys think of us losing another member of Night Raid? Because it seems like this show is gonna kind of end with two members possibly living, and I think it's really gonna be Akame and Tatsumi. It would be very interesting if Tatsumi died off and it was like Akame was the only one that lived. But I want to know how you guys are affected by it, if you're affected at all, because I know it's very different in this anime compared to the manga. Like and I mentioned this really early on. I read like the first volume of the manga, and so that was before anyone died off. That was just Tatsumi training, so it wasn't anything like it was in the show. And of course they speed things up because their show, I believe, is only like 20 something episodes, so they cut a lot of that content, which they do in pretty much all manga, unless it's like the big three, where they just put everything in there and still manage to give us hundreds of fillers. But it's a totally different video. But it's interesting because we don't get as much of a connection as I'm sure you would if you went back and read the manga. But I want to know how it affected you guys, because they're still the main characters. It still matters, even if they only had minor bits of flashback, and we really only got flashback in the very last episode before they actually killed off another character. And it's like, okay, here's his story and just what he used to be like when he worked for the guard, and his former mentor, basically his former captain. And then next episode they kill each other. They have a fight with each other and they kill each other off, and it's like, well, that was it. That was an episode of flashback. Next episode he's gone. And really exact same thing with Shield, which flashback, she got way more of a focus because it was like the whole episode was pretty much her and Tatsumi training, so that was like the whole point. But the same sort of deal. It's like flashback, dead. So I want to know how it affected you guys. For me, it just sucks to see characters go. Like this one, like I said, it wasn't as emotionally impactful. I think this one's going to be more emotional later on because of the fact that the Imperial Arms was passed on to Tatsumi. I feel like it's going to have a longer emotional effect more than the immediate one that it had with Shield, where she saved Mind's life in that exact moment, and it was just like, we saw her basically just get taken down like that final chomp, and her arm was just like hanging out of the dog at the end, which is just really messed up. But that's just how crazy the show gets. But I loved it. Like I said, I want to know what you guys thought, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.